Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Weathering series. Today I'm going to show you how I apply a basic rust effect 2 different ways. One way is using sophisticated finishes and the salt method of painting. The other is using acrylic paint in AK Worn Effects acrylic fluid. The sophisticated finishes is a 2-stage process in itself. First a base, then an activator. I will be using this process on the Mercury M100. Then, on this spare Ranchero body, I am going to use Tamiya X34 as the rust base tone, and then use the AK Worn Effects. Sorry about the new camera angle. I was changing some things around today and trying different things. I do not like this angle and will change it before the next video. Alright, let's get this going. I pour out a little rust base into a cup. I do this because leaving the bottle open to work from it causes too much drying inside the bottle and will clog the neck of the bottle. The Sophisticated Finishes base coat is very thick, then just brush paint it on where you want the rust to show through the paint. Try to keep it as smooth as possible and go just a little bigger than you actually want to use. This will allow for easier water control in the next step. I'm not going to be super picky about where I put this rust. Again, try not to be too symmetrical. I must admit, trying to do this for you all has given me a little anxiety, and I find myself hurrying and putting the cart before the horse a few times so far. Okay, so that's the rust base on the M100, so I can set this aside to dry. Now I will apply Tamiya X34 Metallic Brown as a rust tone base coat on the Ranchero body. You can mix up or use any color you want. Like if you wanted the paint chipped to show a different paint job underneath, you could do that too. Airbrushing this on would make it smoother, but for this video, since I was already here, I figured I would just brush it on. Okay, now I have the base coat on the Ranchero. I am only putting this on the one side as this is a spare body and want to save the other side for another project. That is all there is to applying the rust base to your model. It is really rather easy. While I move us over to the paint booth, please hear a word from our awesome sponsors. Sponsor Spotlight. VCG Resins by Reese. Parts that stand out, service that stands by you. Check out the VCG Resins website. There are great quality products at great prices and amazing customer service. Before you cash out, be sure to use our one-of-a-kind Dirt Road Cinderella discount code and get 10% off your order. The discount code is DRC1024. That's DRC1024. Now back to the channel. Check out scalefinishes.com to find original equipment manufacturer correct plastic model paints that are mixed in-house and are 100% accurate for make, model, and year. They even hand mix paints in 2-ounce bottles to maintain color quality and accuracy. These premium pre-thinned airbrush paints are used from the bottle to the model. When cashing out, be sure to use our one-of-a-kind discount code for 10% off your next order. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. I am going to start this segment with airbrushing on the AK Worn Effects onto the Ranchero with the Gallery GAD 39 airbrush. This stuff is as clear as water, and it can be hard to see it going on. Apply 2 or 3 coats of the AK over the rust base areas only. You may also brush paint this on if you wish. Once the third coat is applied, set it aside to dry. While the Ranchero dries, I will show you how to apply salt for the salt method of painting, using the M100. Sophisticated finishes and the salt method are my preferred way to weather most anything. For applying the salt, you will need water, a paintbrush, and of course some salt. I always have a bottle of distilled water at my bench. As you can see, my salt has been reused. I have been using the same container of salt for almost 10 years now. It's a mix of table salt and other more coarse salts. Our daughter mixed this up for me at work years ago. To apply salt, dip your brush into the water and apply to the rust base. Stay inside the rusted area if you can. This prevents removing the salt and having bare primer showing. And the texture under the paint around the edges adds a bit of realistic detail. Once you have an area wet, apply the salt liberally. If you don't, the paint will go right through the salt. You can just drop the salt on with your fingers, or you can use a small spoon, which is what I use. Just heap it right on. Wait just a second and dump off the excess. Right here, where I am putting the salt on the roof, is one of those horse and cart moments I mentioned earlier. The truck is being two-toned. I should have taped the roof off prior to applying any salt. So off camera, I had to correct my mistake. Once you have the salt applied to all your rust, set it aside to dry. I use the same process to weather frames and suspension as well. Let it dry completely before moving on to the next step, which of course will be applying paint. If you don't, then the airbrush or the rattle can will blow the salt off the rust base and your effect will be lost. Once everything is dried, you can paint the model as you normally would. Use a clean, dry paintbrush to remove any extra dust. If you have any questions or thoughts, leave them in the comments below and I will answer as best I can. You may also email me at dirtroadcinderella@gmail.com. I am also on Instagram as well as Facebook and can be reached on both platforms. Now it is time to put some paint on the Ranchero. Remember that when using the AK Worn Effects, the top coat of paint must be acrylic. So, I am going to use Vallejo Arctic Blue Model Air and shoot it from yet another gallery, GAD 39. I really love this paint and it sprays very well from the bottle. As always, never follow how I actually use the airbrush. I don't know a thing about painting. I am self-taught. Now let the paint dry. Okay, back to the bench, and the paint is dry to the touch. It says on the bottle of AK to do the chipping as soon as the paint dries. For this step, we need a brush like a toothbrush and some water. I have a stiff bristled brush that I made just for this process, but I will use them both to show that they work. Also, I am not going to uncover the rust base along the top of the truck bed, simply because you can't see it and I wanted to show you all that. Wet your brush and just start picking in the areas where you applied the rust color. It doesn't take a lot to start coming off. This method is often used by those in the armor building part of the hobby. Here, I switch to the toothbrush. It's a little slower, but just as effective. See how I kind of dab the brush at the body? Not back and forth like trying to brush your teeth. On the top, you can see a little bit of the base under the color coat. That would not have happened if I had airbrushed the base coat on. But the part on the upper section of the bed isn't noticeable. I find it helpful to take pictures of the body after I have applied the paint so that I don't miss any areas I meant to rust. Obviously, I did not do that for today. That is all there really is to exposing the rust using the AK Worn Effects. In this part of the video, I will apply the lower body color over the salt and rust. I am using a Gallery GAD 68 for this, shooting Scale Finishes 1968 Ford Royal Maroon. Scale Finishes paints are pre-thinned and ready to spray. I love that, so there is less mess and work. Just shake, pour, and shoot. I should have used the larger paint cup for this. Notice that the top is taped? Another one of those cart before the horse moments. I taped it down to the cowl, covering the upper parts of the door. This too I went back to correct off camera. Sometimes it is really hard to keep things straight with ADHD. This maroon sprays so nice and is such a rich color. Don't worry, I will screw this up too. Be liberal with your paint, but not so much you get runs in it. With a rattle can, just paint normally. Once you are happy with it, set it aside to dry. Don't forget to clean your airbrush. Okay, we are back at the bench and the paint is dry and it is time to remove the salt, which for the most part we'll brush right off with a finger. I use a toothpick to remove stubborn chunks of salt. Now you can clearly see the areas I'm going to rust. That's how easy it is to get the salt off. And now we are ready to add the activator. You may notice here that the paint looks a little different when last we saw it. Well, I did tell you I would screw the paint up too. After I taped the body and sprayed the roof, I got a little white mist over part of the body. I grabbed an alcohol pad to wipe it off and it dulled the paint. I was at first very upset with myself, but then I thought, well, this is an old truck that was sitting in a farmer's field. It probably wouldn't have a whole bunch of smooth paint. So I grabbed another alcohol pad and went over the whole body. Now it looks distressed, and I think when I am done, it will add perfectly to the build. In a way, it was a happy mistake. So here it is now, ready for the second stage of the Sophisticated Finishes process, the activator. To apply the activator, all you need is a clean paintbrush. It's almost completely clear, just brush it on, covering all of the rust base. Once you have completed that, get a Ziploc bag big enough to put the model in, with a damp paper towel. Putting the Sophisticated Finishes in a bag helps accelerate the process as well as darkening up the rust. You do not have to put it in a bag, but if you apply the activator and just allow it to set out and dry, the rust will be light and bright orange. You may have to do it a few times. I only leave it in the bag for a few hours. Remember to fill the bag with air. If you forget it overnight, your rust will be very dark. I prefer it a little darker, as I can lighten it up easily with powders or pigments later. For you, it was seconds, but it is now a few hours later, so let's see what it looks like. I like it. If you want it darker, put it back in the bag. This is a real rust in a sense, and it changes and ages over the next few days unless you seal it with a clear coat of some type. I, for one, like to let them age a few days at least before putting a matte or gloss clear top coat on them. But we will go over all that in the third video of this series. Which reminds me, this is also an update on my Woody's Rock and Roll on Wheels build hosted by my friend Dave Wood over at Woody's Scale Model Garage. Dave also recently celebrated a birthday, so happy birthday to you, Dave. Thank you for all your comments and feedback. So until next time, remember, keep your blades sharp and your fingers clear. Later, y'all. Sponsor Spotlight. VCG Resins by Reese. Parts that stand out, service that stands by you. Check out the VCG Resins website. There are great quality products at great prices and amazing customer service. Before you cash out, be sure to use our one-of-a-kind Dirt Road Cinderella discount code and get 10% off your order. The discount code is DRC1024. That's DRC1024. Check out scalefinishes.com to find original equipment manufacturer correct plastic model paints that are mixed in-house and are 100% accurate for make, model, and year. They even hand mix paints in 2-ounce bottles to maintain color quality and accuracy. These premium pre-thinned airbrush paints are used from the bottle to the model. When cashing out, be sure to use our one-of-a-kind discount code for 10% off your next order. Edited, produced, and narrated by Carrie Ann Packard.